If you're planning a trip to Ireland in 2026, the tips that I'm sharing today will help make planning smoother, help you avoid crowds, and maybe even save you a bit of money. Probably the most important tips are when not to be in Dublin, but there are some updates to European entry and exit systems that you might need to know, as well as some really important advice for 2027. As with all of my episodes, you're going to find links to everything I mention in the show notes, so don't worry about grabbing a pen and paper. Just click the link at the bottom of your podcast player, and it's going to take you to everything you need. In case you're wondering why you would want to get your Ireland travel advice from me, my name is Jody Halsted, and I'm an Ireland travel advisor. I've been traveling to and through Ireland for over 23 years, which is just mind-boggling when I think about it, because it really does feel like yesterday when I went the first time. I am the publisher of Ireland Family Vacations, and I host this podcast. I also assist hundreds of travelers with their Ireland vacations each year, and occasionally I host small group tours through the country. I actually have 2 spring tours this year, so you can look forward to some live from Ireland episodes in April and May. And that's really a lot, but Ireland travel is my passion, and my goal, 100%, is to help you have an amazing Ireland vacation. And I do have a few ways to do that. First is my website, Ireland Family Vacations. It's a complete resource for Ireland vacation planning, and is filled with information on what to do and see, as well as handy tips for planning your trip and some free itineraries to get your plans in motion quickly. And don't let the name fool you. I travel through Ireland solo, with my husband, with my family, and as a host of small group tours. So whatever your group size or dynamic, I have information on the site and I'm able to assist. My itinerary personalization, vacation coaching, and custom itinerary services can help you maximize your Ireland experience. And my small group tours, when I do them, are designed to not only deliver the authentic Ireland of your dreams, but to also introduce you to the people and hidden places that make the country so magical. If you are a planner and you love the planning process, then my Ireland Travel Compass walks you step by step through the process that I use, whether I'm planning a trip for myself or I'm planning for a large group that I'm working with. You're going to learn when to visit and how long to stay, what to see and do, where to base yourselves, accommodations, and even some tips for food. There are some amazing places to eat and food experiences throughout Ireland. It's basically my entire Ireland vacation planning brain all laid out for you to use. And on a more personal note, I have 2 daughters who are now in college and have been traveling through Ireland with me since before they could toddle, and one very supportive husband who loves it when I plan other people's vacations because it means I'm not planning my own. Now that you know all about me, let's jump into what you need to know as you consider planning an Ireland vacation in 2026. We're going to start with dotting the I's and crossing the T's and just touching on Ireland travel rules and regulations. Now, currently, there are no restrictions in place for North Americans traveling to Ireland, but there is a handy link in the show notes that you may want to check out to get any information on anything that is going on. So if something happens, this is where you're going to get your information. Just a good link to have as you are planning your trip. When you are planning, you want to read and understand the cancellation policies on everything that you're booking. Flights, transportation, tours, accommodations, everything. It's really easy to skip over that fine print, but especially when there's a possibility of a cancellation or a change, it's always good to know the cancellation policies. And if you're booking with a credit card, be aware of the cancellation coverage that you may have with that card. I do highly recommend purchasing travel insurance if you are booking tickets or tours that don't allow a 100% refund if canceled. And I always recommend travel insurance if you are booking a tour package and not necessarily the one the company offers. You want to do your homework on travel insurance, because not all policies are created equal, and you want to make sure that you are covered for any circumstance. 2026 looks like it's going to be another busy year for travel to Ireland from North America. Now, Irish tourism numbers in 2025 showed that tourism from Europe to Ireland was down, but North American numbers remained steady. And from my perspective, things are already looking busy, especially in the months of May, late August, and September. So we've always talked about the shoulder season being the time to travel, and people are taking that to heart. So the shoulder season is almost the new high season. So you do need to be aware that May and September, which maybe before the pandemic, were very quiet. Those are very popular months now. Great times to be in Ireland, and people have taken notice. So high season starts early and goes a little longer in Ireland now. 2026 has more direct flights to Ireland. Aer Lingus, which is Ireland's flagship airline, is adding 2 new U.S. routes in 2026. So that will be 18 routes between Dublin and the U.S. This is important to know because Aer Lingus is considered a budget carrier. And when budget carriers enter a market, U.S.-based airlines will drop their rates to compete. Now, it's important to note that some of these Aer Lingus routes will not fly year-round. But during the season that they do, you always want to be doing your comparisons. So the new routes to and from the U.S. are Raleigh-Durham, which begins mid-April, and Pittsburgh, which begins at the end of May. Those 2 routes are added to the existing routes of New York JFK, Boston, Chicago O'Hare, Washington Dulles, Cleveland, Hartford, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Newark, Orlando, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Seattle, Denver, Indianapolis, and Nashville. So lots of routes to Dublin from the U.S. now. So more ways to hopefully save on airfare. As I promised at the beginning, I'm going to talk quite a little bit about when to avoid Dublin. Dublin is always busy, especially in the summer months, but there are popular events that are beginning a little earlier this year. It's like they're creeping in, and they're extending longer through the end of September. So you do want to keep these in mind if they happen to overlap with your travel dates. And if Dublin is part of your plan, maybe see if you can shift your itinerary if you are not attending one of these events. So the first ones are American football. The Aer Lingus Football Classic is an end of August tradition, and it marks the opening of the NCAA season. In 2026, Texas Christian University and the University of North Carolina are going to be playing, and the game is scheduled for Saturday, August 29th. The Aer Lingus Football Classic brings over 50,000 football fans to Dublin every year. So my advice is if you are not coming for the game, avoid Dublin from Thursday, August 27th through Sunday, August 30th. Hotel prices sell out, the prices rise, and the city is just busier than normal. So if you're not there for the game, just go earlier, come back later, just avoid Dublin. And then the NFL Week 4 game will probably be in Dublin again this year. It hasn't officially been announced yet, I don't think, but the logical assumption is that it's going to take place on September 27th. It's a very good bet that the Steelers will again be playing because they have a 4-year partnership with Aer Lingus, hence that new 2026 route. But nothing is confirmed yet, and it won't be until the 2026 schedule is announced, which I believe is in mid-May. Now, this game brought 73,000 football fans to Dublin last September, driving up the prices in the city at a time when they're usually going down. So my advice is if you are not visiting for the game, avoid Dublin from Thursday, September 24th through Monday, September 28th. Something else to keep in mind is concerts. We saw Taylor Swift in 2024 and the Oasis reunion tour in 2025. And both of those really caused a rise in prices, thousands of extra people in Dublin. So I have a few tours with dates that you maybe won't want to clash with in 2026. We're going to start with Guns N' Roses at the Thru Arena, June 12th and 14th. Lily Allen at the Thru Arena, July 1st. The Wolf Tones at the Thru Arena, July 3rd and 4th. Bon Jovi at Croke Park on August 30th, which also coincides with college football a little bit. So again, if you're going for either of those events, book your hotels now. They are selling out and prices are rising. And then Westlife is doing a residency at Thru Arena from September 10th through the 26th before moving on to the SSE Arena in Belfast at the end of October. So again, keep those dates on your calendar. If you are not going to Dublin for any of those, the arenas that these bands are playing are huge, and people come in from all over the US, Canada, Europe, just they'll come from everywhere. So those are going to be some very busy, high-priced times in Dublin. And one final Dublin mention is the Dublin Marathon. That's going to be run the Sunday of October bank holiday weekend, which will be October 25th. This also brings crowds, street closures, and accommodations will be booked out months in advance for this. So if you're thinking you're going to go to Dublin at the end of October and you're having issues finding accommodation, this could likely be the reason. A few other busy times to watch for are St. Patrick's Day. Obviously, Dublin hosts a week-long celebration, and other cities and towns through Ireland have their own celebrations as well. And then Easter. This often is spring break for many places in the US, but Irish schools also have a long break for this holiday as well. So if you're traveling over the Easter holiday, be sure to book in advance, especially if you're traveling with families. It is a very popular family travel time in Ireland. All right, little kind of tip for 2027. If you are considering September 2027, you want to keep a few things in mind. The first two being that college football game at the end of August, and then the NFL game, which will probably be held at the end of September 2027. So those two bookends, Dublin's going to be busy no matter what. But in between those is the Ryder Cup. So this is going to be held at Adair Manor September 17th through 19th, 2027. But here's the thing. Adair is a tiny, tiny village. And according to my friends in Ireland, accommodations there are already booked. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if locals will be spiffing up their homes and renting them out for crazy amounts of money to help provide accommodation for this event. We are seeing tournament packages that include accommodation and transfers from as far away as Cork and Galway. So we're looking at, an hour to 2 hours away. And these packages for this golf tournament in Adair are already being booked. And while I haven't heard specifically, I imagine that accommodations in locations like Killarney, Tralee, and Limerick City are also filling rooms. So if you are looking to September 2027, you really want to be planning now and maybe avoiding that area of the West. Maybe go north. Go north in September 2027. I think that's a wise plan. Moving on to rules and regulations. I've got a little bit of a follow-up on the UK ETA and the EU EES. These are things that have kind of been taking place over the last couple of years, and there have been shifts and pauses, so it's hard to keep up with. First off, because this does affect Ireland travel, is the UK ETA. So this began in 2025, but as many people noted, it was not widely enforced. The UK government just came out with a statement at the beginning of this year that said that this kind of lax enforcement was to allow travelers time to adjust to the new rules. So from February 2026, visitors can expect ETAs to be checked when they are boarding transport into the UK. This will definitely apply to ferries and flights into Northern Ireland, as well as Scotland and England. But if you're flying into Dublin or Shannon, it should not be an issue even if you are passing through London. So kind of as an aside here, you don't need an ETA to fly through London because you are not leaving the secure area. However, if anything happens and you would need to leave that secure area for any reason, whether it's a flight delay or an issue of some kind, you have to have that ETA to leave the secure area. So while it's not required to pass through London, it might not be a bad idea. It's not that expensive. I think it's £16 right now. So that was that quick aside. But back to Ireland. At this time, it's unclear if buses that run from the Republic into Northern Ireland are going to be checking for compliance. There's just not anything out there, and it's a lot of work, to be honest. So I can't say what's going to be happening with that. But if Northern Ireland, Scotland, or England are part of your 2026 travel plans, you should apply for the ETA before traveling. It's very quick. I think ours took 10 minutes from when we started to when it was approved. So go ahead, apply for it 3 weeks or so before you go in case there's any issues, and make sure you are using the UK government site, because there are scam sites out there that will charge you hundreds of dollars. Like I said, this is £16 right now. So don't overpay for your UK ETA. The second thing is the EU EES. This only applies to the Schengen region of the EU, and I probably mispronounced that, but it doesn't apply to Ireland. But the reason I want to mention it is in case you're planning to visit another European country or two. The new EU entry-exit system has been causing backups as long as 3 hours at some airports. So, number one, if you are going into any other European countries, make sure that you do your research on this, that you have everything in place that you need to, and that you know there may be some delays in some countries. So again, do your research, make sure that you know your entry and exit plans in each, and see if there's anything going on that you need to be aware of. All right, moving on to handy booking tips. Accommodations for 2026 are beginning to fill, especially, like I said, May, September. Those are both really busy. Summer's not as busy yet from what I'm seeing, but May and September really are. So you want to be looking for accommodations now for your 2026 trip, and especially if you are looking for more budget-friendly options. 3-star hotels and hostels are still being used to host nearly 100,000 displaced people. So budget accommodations are at a premium. Another thing to keep in mind is that there is legislation on rental properties coming up in Ireland that could affect Airbnbs. So if you are looking to travel and stay in Airbnbs, what I want you to do is I want you to email the owners before you make those bookings, before you make those reservations, and ask them if they expect the legislation to be affecting them. And if they do, you may not want to book, just because if you have something booked, let's say for the end of May, and you're booked in an Airbnb, and that legislation comes up and they get checked and they have to close down, you'll get canceled and it may be hard to find another accommodation. So really do your checking with your Airbnb host this year before booking to make sure that they don't anticipate any issues. If you want to try to wing it, which I definitely don't recommend between May and September, you want to be prepared to stay away from town centers and in more rural areas. If you're doing that, you are really going to need to be self-driving. Winging it while dealing with public transportation is going to be a lot of headache. Any special accommodations like castles or manor houses, as well as popular locations, again, Dublin, Killarney, Doolin, Dingle, always book those in advance to make sure that the accommodations are available. You want to book your rental car early for the best prices. And remember that large vehicles, so minivans and up, so 5, 6, 7 seat vehicles, are in high demand and can get scarce and costly if you wait to book closer to your travel dates. My Renting a Car and Driving in Ireland resource page has all the answers to all the questions you're going to have on the car rental and driving topic. And don't forget to compare car rentals using my exclusive link to save 10% at Irish Car Rentals. Petrol costs are also something that I'm asked about a lot. Right now, petrol costs in Ireland are $6.55 a gallon. It's important to remember that Ireland petrol is measured out at the liter, and there's 3 3/4 liter per gallon. So, like I said, $6.55 a gallon, which is why when you are renting a car, people always say rent the smallest vehicle you can do because it's going to cost you less in fuel as well. Train and bus travel was very popular last year along the main tourist routes, and I don't see that changing. So, book your tickets for public transportation in advance if you are traveling at peak times or if you're traveling with a group. If you have a group of 6 or more, consider hiring a licensed driver guide. It may be the best money you spend. Not only will everyone comfortably fit in the touring vehicle with plenty of room for luggage, but everyone will get to enjoy the journey. You can hire drivers for the entirety of your trip, for point-to-point travel, or just for day trips. And if your group is 12 or more, plan to book early because those mini buses and touring coaches are in high demand, especially around those football games. Those book out months in advance. So if you're going for one of those football games or around that time and you have a large group, book well in advance. And if you're not sure about what goes into hiring a driver guide, I have a full resource on that as well. So again, back to the show notes. And wrapping up with tips for booking tours and attractions. You want to book tours and popular must-see sites like the Book of Kells, Guinness Storehouse, Kilmainham Jail, and Newgrange in advance to avoid disappointment or waiting in line and spending, you don't want to spend 2 hours in a queue waiting for entry during your vacation. So OPW spots like Newgrange and Kilmainham Jail both offer online booking, 30 days in advance for Newgrange, 28 for Kilmainham, and you want to book those as soon as they come available at that 28 or 30-day mark, midnight Irish time, to secure your tickets because those do sell out. Carrick-a-Reid Rope Bridge is operating on timed tickets for both the bridge and the car park, and according to the National Trust website, pre-booking is essential if you want to cross the rope bridge. That booking window is 60 days. And if Blarney Castle is on your itinerary, check to see if your planned visit day corresponds with a day there's a cruise ship in Cork or Cove. If they match, you may want to switch your date if possible, or plan to arrive the minute the site opens to beat that cruise traffic. I do have a video on how to figure that out, and it's on my website. And then to avoid the worst of the crowds in popular spots like the Cliffs of Moher, the Rock of Cashel, Kylemore Abbey, you want to time your visit before or after the majority of large tour buses arrive. So before 10 a.m. or into the late afternoon, or even evening if it's available, and that'll help you miss the worst of the crowds. So that was a lot, and some of it probably didn't even apply to you, but forewarned is forearmed and all that. So take these tips and use them in the way that best helps you as you are planning your 2026 trip. And don't forget that you can visit the show notes to review the information and grab the links for additional information that you may need. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, slán go full.